We were still waiting for a couple more speakers to join us, but I just wanted to set the tone for the panel. And while we were discussing the theme, innovation is a word which is thrown about all the time. There is innovation in every moment, or there can be innovation in every moment, because if we realize it to the fullest, life is full of new moments. Diksha, please join us. You don't really know what's around the corner. And the fashion business is about change. The fashion business, more than anything else, is and should be about handling change. So here are some great innovators from different companies. Some of them are entrepreneurs. Some of them are entrepreneurial employees. But every day, I think they rise to the challenge of innovation. They rise to the challenge of change in this business. So what I thought was, as a theme, one of the things which I've been observing over the last year and a half, 2 years particularly, or maybe longer than that, let's say the last 4 years, is the fact that the world is even more uncertain than it was earlier. And in that whole scenario of uncertainty, there are competing pressures on businesses. So when you're management, when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a designer, you're a manufacturing person, or a product management, or a business management person, or a planning person, how do you prepare yourself to rise up to that challenge day to day, and how do you make things happen in a new way? I'm sure you've heard a lot during the day about different things, but a few of the pressures that we see are competing pressures on business. I'd just like to list them, and then I'll take the questions to the panelists here. One is this whole pressure about being creative, being new, having new product, and at the same time, you need to scale up the business. You need to keep the business profitable. So left brain, right brain, right? Right brain says creative, new product, new designs, new ways of doing business. And the left brain says, boss, the numbers have to make sense, profits have to be made, turnovers have to grow, quarter on quarter we have to show growth. And they are competing pressures, because numbers would say, do more of the same, what works, and innovation says, no, we need to do something different. Second is things like you're running a brand and you have a certain brand identity. How do you keep true to that brand identity versus adapting to the market? Third is, and you'll find some of those answers here, you're dealing with heritage. You're dealing with product which may be heritage-oriented. How do you bring newness and freshness into it, modernize it all the time? There are global brands working in India, which is a very diverse market. How do you bridge that gap? Sustainability, eco-friendliness versus the pressure of growing the business, doing more, selling more. And last but not the least, we talk about the customer, we talk about customer-centricity. How do we keep the customer at the center, but also keeping in mind Henry Ford's statement, if I asked the customer what they wanted, they would have said, I want a faster horse. And how do you not just get stuck with delivering faster horses? So these are some of the themes that we're going to touch upon in the session. Anshu, let me start with you, if you don't mind. You're right at the center of the stage.
I told you not to start with me, but it's okay.
Talking about the competition between the logic, the planning side, and the creativity side, and you represent an international brand as well. How do you see that playing out in this market that is changing all the time?
When I talk about newness and innovation, it's a necessity. We cannot move away from that. But then how do we balance it is that I don't call innovation as innovation, but adapting to changes in the consumer. We as a brand, we believe in one philosophy. We are a very prudent brand. So for us, profits is sanity. So with that sachet, we do everything. So even if it's innovation, we make sure it's giving us the returns, it's giving us the profits. Giving an example of how we have adapted to changing customer change, 70% of our business comes from our loyal customers. They come to the mall every 3 weeks. So we moved away from a traditional seasonal drop to dropping new options every week so that she finds newness, number one. Number two, we are a brand from down under, which is Australia. Now, all the fits, all the styles, all the silhouettes are based on women who are taller and who are well built. So adapting that product, having the same signature and the same ethos to the Indian customer is another innovation that we have done. In fact, we've taken it a bit further. We've launched a collection called the Petite Collection, which is basically targeting women who are below 5'3" of height, and that's giving us great results. So how we balance is, we keep on doing something new, but 80% or the bread and the butter still comes from that 80%. So it's an 80-20 rule that we do. We start the innovation with 20%, it starts giving us result, and we expand it. So making sure that we are not a top-line hungry brand, but yes, this is what we do to balance profits and innovation.
Great. Sean, thanks for joining us on stage. Diksha, let me put the same question to you. I mean, you've been a manufacturer first, or your company's been a manufacturer first, and you've made product for other brands, and then you launched your own brand. How have you made the transition from kind of walking or marching to another drum beat, which is maybe slower, a little bit more relaxed, to something which is facing the customer, and you're having to face that for the first time?
Hello.
Yeah, just hold it up a little bit. Hold it up.
I'm audible? Yeah.
Yep.
So first of all, I would like to talk about my brand, which is Gioia in Italian, and it means joy. So, this brand is very, very new, but we have been into this handbags business for a very long time, and we have been working with the international brands. And with this exposure of working with the international brands, making a product as per, the international trends and the quality standards, for 30 years, rather, more than 30 years. In 2021, we came up with our own brand, this Gioia, and we thought of using that expertise and making for our, the customers here who, go abroad and, bring the international labels, who, made in India, rather the products which are made in India, but with a label which is international. So we thought of, making the same international quality product, which is available here at a much better price, but of the quality standards as good as those luxury brands. And, with a lot of, technology or innovation, which we hear, in today's times, there's a lot of data and information, but that, that depends, how we use that information, which is apt as per the brand. So, like we hear about sustainability and timelessness. So we are using this sustainable option, which is leather, which is quite durable. And if we talk about timelessness, yes, we focus on our designs which are timeless, the categories which are very basic, which are very practical, and the designs which are timeless. But yes, how we bring something new on the table, it is, we fine-tune our designs as per the feedback what we receive from the customer. So, which brings more utility to them, and with some pop of colors in between, with the change of season, with the summer season coming up, bringing in colors which are suitable for the summer season. Then as a winter sets in, so the colors as per the winter season. So that is the way, we are bringing something new on the table, as well as keeping timeless designs on the table. Yeah.
Okay. So similar to a little bit like what Anshu expressed earlier, similar product category, you've just had your brand launch, Mansi, today. Balancing that need for heritage and innovation, how have you incorporated that into your business?
So what
Just
we are
hold
doing,
up the mic.
so what we are doing, and our ethos with this, with keeping heritage and innovation tied together, I feel a brand is actually, like I read somewhere, it's actually the culture, religion, folk music, folk art. It creates history. So it is, we see it as a very shallow word, but it is like Jesus is a brand in itself. It created Christianity. Roman architecture is a brand in itself. It has a heritage, and it is. So how we are incorporating is we are keeping our designs the same, like the shapes, the structure, the leather, the silk, as classic as it can be, but it innovates with every artist that we get, and the personality of the brand changes to the personality of the artist that we get every year, and puts the artist to the forefront, and it becomes more than an aspirational brand, it becomes more emotional. So it's luxury with a purpose, which now I feel the market is heading towards, that we need a purpose, and India needs to be on the luxury market as well. We have everything that we need, like how she said that we are exporting everything, and we are putting a label there, and Dior has taken our artwork and put it into their creations, which is our heritage, and we can bring it to the table, and that is what we are trying, with a touch of incorporating neurodivergence also in our art, with the handwork and the yearly change in the...
So the newness stands out or makes the product stand out, but doesn't necessarily make it discardable. So it's not newness for newness' sake.
No.
Excellent. Great point. Sean, I'm going to come to you. From the point of view of keeping... So you've got a brand, and you've got a kind of messaging of the brand, the look, the whole kind of evolution of the brand happened in a very curious way. I guess characteristic Aussie way of being irreverent and all of that. But how do you keep strengthening your brand's core? There has to be a core. You can't be all over the place, right? With keeping innovation, change, and as you step into markets like India, which are very diverse, you'll find more and more challenges coming up in terms of addressing new market segments and customer segments. How do you keep the core steady and yet meet the market changes?
That's a very good question. Just a bit of a backlog or backstory on my company, Aussiebum. It started from myself simply being an Aussie, being a beach bum, and living a lifestyle that you could say was the great Australian dream. Then when trying to sell my product to Australian retail, they rejected it simply because it was too Australian and it was too out of touch. Well, let's fast track now, and we'll include some words like Kylie Minogue, 4-time Exporter of the Year for Australia in manufacturing, e-commerce, $500 million turnover, and now India being our 3rd biggest traffic internet site in the past 6 months, opening up a unique lane, first for Australia into India, and having a very loyal, successful launch in terms of audience, simply because the world is truly global. And whilst there are countries in India, those countries are a part of the international landscape. And my brand represents the values, not of the mainstream, but of the disruptive innovation within a category, that there was a time where black, white, or grey was how men were perceived. Now, from that position, in terms and in respect to the question, when we talk innovation, for those of you that remember the famous Wonder Bra from women, well, I had many men saying, well, why don't men have one? On launching the Wonder Jock, it crashed the internet in New Zealand, TPG, which is one of the largest internet broadband providers, and it sent it down. We received thousands of orders to the extent at that time was also dial-up in some respects, because Australia had a very small bandwidth in comparison to the rest of the world, so we were 3-4 years behind. Because retail in Australia rejected my brand, and being the somewhat larrikin that I am, I then grew a chip on my shoulder and I built my own website. And I created a brand that represented and reflected the values of the modern man. Mind you, this was some years ago, so now I have 2 generations. And those people that believed and wanted to be part of a tribe and be part of something and part of disruption and rebel against what their parents would wear or their father would wear or their family and institution tells you should wear, that's where Aussiebum grew its backbone. From Wonderjock then came, and I'll just list for the sake of it, we were the first with bamboo, banana leaves, banana-infused underwear that was made from Queensland leaves and reconstituted into yarn and knitted. Bamboo I actually released some 12 years ago, and now we see it becoming as sustainable and far more exceptional than cotton, which is damaging our land and also affecting the health and well-being. Micromodal is another fabric that we have and that we support, which is again biodegradable, and also with the elastine that's used, being very cautious and careful how we actually choose and select our suppliers. Vitamin-infused underwear made the front page of the New York Times and Post and many other papers. And I was asked a question, so it's vitamin-infused underwear. This is never been done before. And he said, what's going to be the next one? I said, well, the next one will be Viagra. I think that will be one that men will enjoy as well. And I was being the larrikin, and the next day, Aussiebum is producing Viagra-infused underwear. Which was like, no. And because of that, that's also what got my brand onto what became a phenomenon, if you recall the Avengers movie. If you Google Aussiebum and the word Avengers, you will see my brand, my billboard, in the fight scene in New York, in there. And when you hear the price that was paid to be part of that, you would say they did not have you as a sponsor because they wanted your money. They wanted you because you are an innovator and you are also listening to a generation that many are ignoring. And that, again, increased and infused the tribe into not one generation, but two generations. And I think evidence of innovation, especially in India, where there was a time where there was only one fabric, there was only one style, there was only one brand. And people say, why can't you conform? Why can't you be like everyone else? And I said, but that's not disruptive, and that's also not innovation. There is enough room for everyone, but also it helped grow that market and make it more relevant. Today, its growth is 15, 20% year on year. India and the success that we've had is simply because, and it is such an embarrassment to say, Australia had no shipping lane from Australia to India. How embarrassing, not for India, but for Australia. We now have opened up a shipping lane in support, and we also have India logistics that are working harder and faster to make that a reality. And it's simply because Indian men are also part of the global community and want to be reflected that way. The way they are is through their own innovation, is through their own self-worth, it is through their own empowerment. And then with that as well, it gives me the opportunity to take business from a country that I don't necessarily abide by the values and start manufacturing in India, especially after I hear you can have 100 pieces made in India. And I was horrified, absolutely horrified, when I see 10,000 pieces, 50,000 pieces is a sustainable and economical for everyone to have a share of the pie. And especially the middle class of India in that regards, and also the disposable income. Wouldn't it be nice, instead of taking with one hand but not giving back, but to be able to give back and to sustain a society and grow it? Because as AI is introduced into India especially, and other countries, that those people that once had that role has become redundant, well then they'll be looking for other roles. And to be able to create and sustain what it is that I'm bringing to India, also keeping it in India, and not asking for a customer to return my product if it's too big or too small or there's a stitching. No, pass it on. But also to be able to create a quality and also have values within a society that has been represented. And to my surprise, I didn't even know about India until some 12 months ago, when a company, Ernst Young, had done market research with men and said, we want to show you some Australian brands. It's a small country, 23 million people, and there are people, big companies, that want to buy these brands and infuse them into India because they're Indian families. And by my surprise, Aussiebum became number one. And evidence of that is in the last 6 months and the success that we've had. But clearly, the calling from Indian men saying, we want innovation, we also want something that is relevant to us, individual to us, but to be part of a tribe and a community that is no longer singular, but is now multinational and multi-global. So for me, a unique or innovation, I see India is where it's all happening, and evidence is what I've achieved quite simply in the past 6 months with a brand that many in India had never known of.
Well, the Prime Minister is going to be very happy listening to you. I'm sure you can be a brand ambassador for Make in India very, very soon in the next 6 months. But picking up on something which you said just now, Yogesh, I'd like to ask you this question. You work with, you represent currently multiple international brands, and you worked in the past with other international brands. Balancing the global brand ethos and the brand structure and all of that, and bringing that into India, and then within India, having a national strategy and then kind of, percolating it down to the regional level and making sure that we take care of all the divergences and the diversity that is in the country. What's your take on the innovative edge to making that happen?
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yogesh Kakkar from Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein brands. Now that we're talking about innovation, the top 3 innovations that are going around and doing the circles is adaptive clothing, very socially there. There is also a khadi print which changes colors every wash. And there is, now we should also look at, like Instamart, customized clothing in 10 minutes. These were the inputs given to me by a young designer when I said I'm going for an innovation panel, nothing from my side. So just at a lighter note, this is not the question. And just to make sure that we're talking innovation and there's enough and more in this world. Coming back to my brands that I represent and what is happening in the world and what is relevant in India and how does it percolate, it's like this, that most of the European and American brands are roughly, if I was to bucket it, between 40 to 60% right for the Indian market. Now, what you do beyond that is really how well embedded you are to the global system. You bring in the innovations, modify it to the tropical country. First, at a country level, you do a certain percentage right. And then to a regional level, you do the rest of the percentages right to stay relevant for the long term. Sometimes it so happens that the regional things become national and national things, innovation become global. It has happened, we've all heard Nokia's old cases of phones and stuff like that. But to give you an example, in Tommy's word, we launched a tailored line, which is very much our own innovation in India, owing to the ceremonial surge and the wedding spend surge which is happening here, not necessarily the Moti Bharat is happening in Europe. So with that, what has happened is that we have created variations of what is going into the belt of Bihar, Jharkhand, and Madhya Pradesh of the blazers and suits versus what is going for the same fabrics in rest of the metropolitan towns. And it is yielding results which is catching the eye for most of the countries that we are working with. So yeah, there's no dearth of examples, but I would leave it over there.
Anshu, do you want to pick that up?
So yes, it's an Australian brand. Again, I mentioned it's meant for women who are taller. So first we not customized, but tweaked a few things from those silhouettes to make it more Indian. And then once in India, we made it regional, not losing the ethos of the brand. So women in Australia are taller, the neckline was deeper, the armholes were bigger. All we did was put a small button here for the neckline to be proper, reduced a bit of measurement here, so kind of did our own customizations. Maxi dresses don't sell well, we made them midi. So a few style changes, and I would call them innovations, which made them right for the Indian customer. And it happened over a period of time, it didn't happen overnight. Then coming to regional, we did not create regional capsules, we did not create regional products, but the way we merchandised region-wise was something that we adapted in. In December, a December in North is very different from what it is in South or Ahmedabad or Indore or Mumbai. So making sure that the product package is there, which is relevant to that season, was something that we innovated with. A hot package went to the South. The winter wear went to the North. It might seem very simple when I talk about it, but there is a lot more that goes behind it. A great merchandising strategy, top-notch inventory management. So a lot of innovations and adaptations helped us to move from a purely Australian brand to an Indian and a regional brand.
Rohit, I want to kind of take the question to you because we've heard 3 global brands, or 3+ global brands, talking about how they innovate or adapt to the Indian market. We have a whole structure of manufacturing here. It's not the cheapest in the market across the world. Maybe it's not fully capable or whatever. But surely there is something to be said in terms of using the capability to innovate better, faster, and getting more relevant product into the market.
To my mind, it's not just the question of
Hold the mic up.
to my mind, it's not just a question of innovating in terms of making it faster or bringing it to the market faster. It's also because of the fact that there is a manufacturing and a supply chain existence in India, which is very different for a brand in Australia or in Europe or in US, who has to contend with 3 to 4 months of predictions and then ordering and then bringing it into the market. Indian manufacturers, as they exist, not only can bring this faster to the market, but I think the most important part is it's a process which is capable of bringing customization away from generalizations which we live with. Customization, when I say customization, I'm not just talking about a small change here and there. I'm talking about a whole fit process, a whole design process which is adapted to, like she said, that they want to adapt to the regional, markets. But in India, the language changes every 100 kilometers. The regions are so many that we just don't need to go with the merchandise which is 8 sizes and 10 colors. Maybe we are looking at a changing retail structure. Maybe we are looking at another 10 years or after 10 or 20 years of a new structure where we will go back to customization, single fits, custom tailoring. I don't know, maybe the tech in manufacturing has to evolve, can involve in India to be able to handle this. Like for example, in a Lenskart store, if you go now to a eyewear store, you don't get anything off the shelf. You get your eyes tested, they make your lenses according to your, so none of the SKUs, about 1200 SKUs lying there in the store are available to be bought off the shelf. So I don't see why this cannot go into a fashion retail store in garments, in apparel. The ticket price in a Lenskart store is 1,000 rupees, 1,200 rupees. And if it can be done in that, why can't a brand based out of, a fashion brand based out of retail stores can do the same thing, that you go back and order garments fitted to adapted to your requirements, to your designs, to your way you want it, whether with the technology which is available in terms of digital or in fit patterns and the other 3D modeling. Will this adapt the stores, retail stores will adapt to this?
So I'm going to put a question to Sweekriti. What Rohit has just described seems to be a far more responsible way to do business in the fashion sector than...
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So why don't you kind of elaborate on your vision on what that innovation would look like, and please talk about your business as well a little bit.
Thank you for asking me this and letting me talk about this topic, which is very crucial. I think I'm the only one here in the panel.
Don't talk about age, that's a very sensitive
No,
topic.
not age, but business-wise or brand-wise, I mean the brand philosophy-wise. So to give a brief about my brand called Rustic Hue, we work with the handloom weavers and different communities in Odisha, and all the handloom weaving techniques which the communities have been engaged for ages now. So our brand is a research-based brand, and it's impact-driven first. And we care more about the impact in the sense economical, cultural, social, and environmental. So I kind of disagree at a personal level also. So when we talk about volumes of productions, I think I mean, how it is going to further impact the environment and also largely the life of the producers. Are we ensuring the environment or surroundings and the working conditions, how it is being manufactured? So if you trace back in the supply chain and we become thoughtful about each stage from beginning to the end or finished products, what kind of and what category of impact we are actually making. So in long run, it is very crucial, and I strongly thrive about that. And through our brand, we not only believe in these philosophies, but we actually practice. So that is my answer to large-scale volume versus the replenishments and faster-moving products.
Yeah, basically what you're advocating is that we don't move to a model which will create the carbon footprint of, let's say, an average American or an average European or an average Australian customer, but create a leadership model for the industry which is very different and definitely, I mean, sustainability is a word which is used a lot, but create really a sustainable business so that the world can sustain and therefore business sustains.
Yeah, if a brand claims to be sustainable, how they can become truly sustainable if they are not addressing these issues in details and in depth. So not only thinking about the customers or not only thinking about the business or scale or profit, they are all important. But we also need to be thoughtful about the majority of stakeholders. And coming to my brand, the majority of stakeholders are the artisans who bring in their skills, and it's completely a collaborative kind of work environment and process where we give inputs about different market exposures, design interventions, and design intervention in terms of color palette probably they had never idea about, and whether they are compatible with the specific dyes and raw materials they are working with. So all these kind of things and the awareness about wastages, probably they are unknowingly making and they are not knowing about the impact of that. So educating them, educating the customers about being thoughtful about their consumption and choices with the kind of products they are making, they are very crucial. And probably it is not the responsibility or job of only one person, probably it's the collective responsibilities of all of us, as a producer, as a customer, and as a business person.
Very well said. We've got roughly about 7 minutes on the clock. I just want you to note one thing. There are 2 handbag manufacturers, brands. There are 2 Aussie brands. There are 2 undergarment brands. And Rohit is the odd man out, is it? Always. But anyway, just to bring the session to a close, I'd like each of the speakers to give their 30, 60-second one single thought that they'd like to leave the audience with for the day. Diksha?
I think there can be, a lot of, things we would like to do, but playing out on your strengths is most important. And Make in India on manufacturing is our strength. So I think we should make the most out of it, rather making for others. I think we should make for ourselves, more homegrown brands should be there. Indians should be proud of our homegrown brands. Yeah.
Okay. Sweekriti, with an innovative twist, please.
I would rather urge the audience to become conscious consumers and support sustainable fashion and truly become aware of our surroundings, what is happening, and what would become the life of the few generations, what we are going to leave them with. So I think we should carry the responsibilities of all these thoughts. So my urge is that to the audience.
Okay. Rohit?
sustainability has been talked about a lot, I think, in the previous session also, and we just touched upon this. But most of our buzz is about material sustainability. We're talking about recycling PET bottles and making polyester again. So you're basically not going the full circle. You're taking the PET bottle. We have been doing this for sportswear, for polyester, for ages and for years. And same thing applies to the other material. Everything is about material sustainability or recycling materials. But we are not addressing one basic side of sustainability, which is much bigger than the supply side. It's the demand side. Most of the brands, when we say that 1/3 of the goods manufactured in this world go to the landfills without having been used, and 1/3 is bought by the people and they don't use it, they leave in their wardrobes. This is applicable mostly to the Western countries, to the Australia, Europe, or US countries. Now, the earlier contention that when you go back to customization, where is this wastage coming from? The brands which sell at 7x the price, they buy for 100 rupees and they sell for 700 rupees, end up with a 5%, 4% EBITDAs on their balance sheets. The biggest brands, H&M, Zara, whoever, the balance sheets show only 4-5% when they are selling for 700% on the gross cost of the merchandise. Where is it going? It's going in the wastage in the landfills. So what we need to change is go back to the customization. The supply chain has to adapt. The tech is going to adapt to the same thing which I've been talking about earlier. Maybe this fashion retail will go into that direction, and that will be the solution for the major sustainability issues, problems which are facing us. Okay.
My only few words would be go slow. When we talk about innovation, it can only happen when we move from fast fashion to slow fashion, when we pause, when we think, when we give room for innovation. So I would again urge to go slow in our consumption, move to slower fashion, move to more innovation, move to more quality, and I think that is where the value can be created.
I think in this whole thing, it is about now, going forward, it is about accepting our own individuality and not about, as she said, keep moving with fast fashion, slow fashion, and being what you yourself are and not trying to look like others, and accepting your own strengths and your own ethos.
So, concluding remarks from my side would be on the business longevity relation to innovation. How does a brand or a business last over a period of time, and why does it do that? And I'm sure an easy answer, one of them, is innovation. But the trick lies in the execution for such brands to be run, or such businesses to be run. What you need to do is to make sure that you keep investing in innovation at the right pace or at the right amount, and not go all in at all point of time. But you should be the right time adapter and continuously adapting innovations, even if it is not your innovation at all points of time, and make sure that they reach to the right consumer who will appreciate it. This simple theory can make a brand last or a business last for an extremely long period of time. You necessarily don't need to be innovator, but the consumer of innovator which carries the innovation to the final consumer.
I couldn't agree with you more. My company is some 25 years old, and innovation has always been the leader. But I would like to leave you with something very simple and very niche and specific. And as a reflection, let's just look at the advances of AI and GPT chat. And what are we now? 4.5 within 2 years? It's simply amazing. And AI is live. It is online. And you plug that into your database and you learn about Power BI and Power Apps. and the AI, and you prime it correctly, and it will tell you what your innovation needs to be. It will tell you what the customer sentiment is. And then when you mash that with IP targeting, so that means that customers in India will only see products that are relevant to the Indian male, and also the colours that they wear, the size they wear, and the image they like to reflect. That truly is where innovation is coming from. It is coming from AI, and it is not on its way, it is arrived.
Thank you, panelists. Do we have time for 2 questions? Anyone with questions? If not, well, can we have a mic there, please?
I've heard the sustainability topic since morning. Is there a measure how to measure sustainability in fashion and apparel space?
We are still figuring out, sir.
On.
I'm a fashion researcher as well, apart from heading my own design studio. So it's still ongoing. We are all still figuring it out. Because when I started 6 to 7 years ago, I just started with the intention that I would be going back to my home native state, and I'll start working with the local people. But eventually, after mingling with them, after knowing them, how the environment that they are working with, and all various broader aspects, so we are still, it's ongoing to figuring out that what is the measure, how, I mean, different parameters are there. So it's ongoing.
Yeah, thanks. Because why I said measure, because sustainability starts from production, and later after you use the product.
There are various
If you share your email
forms
ID with me, I'll share a 5-year-old presentation. Maybe you might find some answers there.
I'll drop you my mail ID. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? Please.
Hi. So we've got some great brains here. So for me, innovation is a very broad
Just
term.
state the question.
So I want to understand how to find a sweet spot from the customer's end of innovation and from the brand's end of innovation. Because today customers see few influencers promoting something, and after 15, 20 days, for them, that becomes a driving force. So how to find that sweet spot that the brands always stay relevant to the customer? Any one of you?
I'll go first. I'm sure it will never be complete as an answer, but having said that, like a product life cycle, there's an innovation adoption life cycle. And there are early adopters, there are so on and so forth. I'm sure you got it. Now, it is depending on what you are representing as a brand or a business, which kind of a consumer are you representing, is what kind of innovation should you be looking for. So your sphere of finding innovations also go in that direction. While we can be buzzing about sustainability, buzzing about AI, but everybody will see that animal with closed eyes in a room. The elephant's trunk and tail will be difficult to measure equally. So it depends, what are you representing? Which consumer are you representing? And hence, what are you making out of that innovation, whether that is interesting enough for your consumer or not?
We're getting desperate signs that the time is up, so we'll have to wrap up. My thanks to the panelists for taking the time out, even though we were running late, for your patience, and the audience's patience in sitting here and listening to us. Thank you so much, and let's give everybody, including yourselves, a round of applause for this.